Hey everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to another episode of the Summer Transition Series. Today we're talking about Trinity, Advising and Registration. My name is Casey Terrell. I work with new student programs here at Duke. I'm joined by a couple of other folks if they want to go ahead and introduce themselves. Hi, Nicole from New Student Programs. Welcome.
Hello everyone, this is David Rabiner. I'm a professor of psychology at Duke and one of the academic deans, and most importantly for our discussion today, I'm the director of the Academic Advising Center. Our office coordinates and oversees advising for all Trinity college students from essentially right now up until you declare your major at some point in your second year.
Awesome. So just a quick rundown for those of you who have not joined us before. Just how this works is this will be a one-way audio webinar, so you'll be able to hear us. We will not be able to hear you. Instead, we ask that you please submit any questions that you have into the Q&A, and then Nicole and I will kind of be moderating this session. We'll ask your questions for you. So you'll be able to hear the answers, but just because of the amount of people in the webinar, we unfortunately will not be able to hear you. So to get started, I think we've talked about starting with the video. So most of the Summer Transition Series webinars have corresponding videos. So we're just going to start with the Trinity Advising and Registration video, which can be found on the Duke New Student Program YouTube channel. But we'll start with that. If you have any questions, feel free to start typing them in, and then we'll jump straight into them after the video ends. Great. And yeah, go ahead and get back. Awesome. So hopefully that gave you some more information if you have not seen the video already. All right, but let's jump into the questions because I see a few of you have asked them. Feel free to add any more as they come up, and we will get to them. All right, so is it necessary to choose a Writing 101 course with a theme related to what my major is, or should I just choose something I'm interested in?
So that's a good question. The nice thing about Writing 101 at Duke is if you've been on Duke Hub and started poking around, you'll see that there are just incredibly diverse content areas for different sections of Writing 101. It is absolutely not necessary to choose a Writing 101 section where the content is related in some way to what you think at this point your major may wind up being. We would encourage you to choose whatever section of Writing 101 looks interesting to you. Although the content areas differ, they all teach basically the same or very similar approach to writing, so that regardless of what section you're in, you should be developing and working on the same kinds of important writing skills. I will say, just emphasize that half of your class was randomly assigned to take Writing 101 in the fall. The other half will take it in the spring. If you're in Focus, then you'll be assigned, because of that, to take it in the spring. Those classes fill quickly. They're limited to 12 students per section. They never go beyond 12. And so when you book bag, if you're supposed to register for Writing 101, and if you are scheduled to take it in the fall, you have to register for it no matter what. There are no exceptions to that. I put 3 or 4 different sections in your book bag because it does tend to fill quickly. I will say that students, don't be surprised if the section that you want to take fills before you're able to get into it, particularly if you have the second window. But that whatever section you wind up in, you will learn the writing skills that Duke wants you to have, and oftentimes students who wind up in a section that may not have been their top choice just wind up really being thrilled with the class. It turns out to be something brand new, and they wind up enjoying it much more than they expected.
Awesome. We were just made aware that some folks were not able to hear audio during the video that we just shared. So like I said, it's on, I don't know why that works, why it didn't work first off, but it is on the YouTube Duke New Student Programs channel. So, and then there's a Summer Transition Series playlist on it. So you can see all of the videos throughout the entire series, as well as the recordings of past webinars. But the Trinity registration and advising one is right here. So if you haven't checked it out yet and you awkwardly just watched it without audio, feel free to go back to this link and listen to it because it's got some really helpful information. Thank you for that first question. Let's see, next up, if AP scores are out on July 9th for international students, would it be too late to send in my scores from this year because the registration for courses also opens on July 9th?
So obviously you should get them in as soon as you possibly can. I spoke with AP, posting AP scores is handled by the registrar's office. They have assured us that at least for domestic students who, as long as they make their request, that their AP scores are sent to Duke, and they do that in a timely manner, that scores for exams that you just took at the end of your senior year, Duke will receive and have posted in Duke Hub prior to registration. That's certainly how it worked last year. This year should be no different. I honestly don't know if it's different for international students or not. You could send that question to registrar@duke.edu, and they handle it. They'll be able to answer it. Let me just say that the reason to get your scores in sooner rather than later is, in some sense, it doesn't matter. There is no deadline beyond which your scores can no longer be accepted. You can have your scores sent to Duke the week before you graduate, and if it turns out that you need an extra credit to get what you need to graduate, that score that shows up the last week will do it for you. The reason why doing it early can potentially matter is that there are some classes that you may want to enroll in where the AP credit is a required prerequisite to be able to enroll in the class. And if that AP credit is not posted on your transcript before you go to register, Duke Hub will not allow you to enroll in the class. So the timing only really matters for AP scores that you may use as a required prereq for a class you want to get into. So an example, if you wanted to enroll in Econ 201, the equivalent of Econ 101 or AP credit for, I think it's Econ 21 or 22, is required to be able to get into 201. And if your scores have not been received by the time you register, Duke Hub will not let you enroll in that class, and you won't be able to at that time.
So thinking about research opportunities and fast connections programs, is it necessary to start looking into those now, or do you have any sort of advice as to what that timeline should look like?
That varies quite a bit across students. Duke is one of the world's first and foremost research universities, and we strongly encourage students to get involved in research at some point in their Duke career, so they really get a first-hand experience for what it's like to be involved in the generation of new knowledge, as opposed to just absorbing knowledge in your classes, but to actually be involved in creating it. I would say, about maybe 20%-ish of students get involved in research in their first year. So it's a minority of students who choose to get involved in research in their first year. Unfortunately, students can labor under the misimpression that if they haven't gotten involved in a lab or gotten started on research in their first semester, that they're falling behind because they hear other students who are doing that. That's just absolutely not the case. BAS Connections, typically, the BAS Connections teams, some start in the summer, most start in the fall and go for a full year. So it would be unusual for a first-year student to participate actively in a BAS Connections team. There may be some teams that have spots that open up in the spring, but you could certainly start looking into that by visiting the BAS Connections website in the first semester, looking at what BAS teams are going to be taking applications in the spring, and if you see something you like, to pursue it, and it would start in your sophomore year, sometimes in the summer. I would mention that a great source of information about research opportunities and getting involved in research and different ways to approach that are our directors of academic engagement. Those are professional advisors that are located in our office at the Academic Advising Center on East Campus. We have one DAE who focuses on opportunities in the arts and humanities, one in the natural and quantitative sciences, one in the social sciences. You can go online to our advising website and learn about the DAEs and book a 1-hour appointment with them for whenever you want. You can meet with them as often as you want, as many different DAEs as you want, and getting in to see at least one DAE in your fall semester is something that I would strongly recommend. They know more about what's available for students in their area of expertise by far than anyone at the entire university, and can make you aware of things that you would otherwise just never find out about. That could be really terrific for you.
Yeah. Is there a way to see all courses and descriptions in a way that can be scrolled through rather than having to click on an individual course to see the fuller description?
Not to my knowledge. You know, there's a print version of the course catalog that they don't distribute anymore to all students. I'm not aware that there's a PDF of that online. You could go to the to Duke.edu, and in the search window, type in Duke course catalog, and if there is a PDF available, that should come up, and that would allow you to scroll through. Other than that, if you go to the online course catalog that you can get to in Duke Hub, you can sort of look department by department at the different courses, right? But then you do have to click on the course number link to get to an actual description of it. So unless there's a PDF of the course catalog that they still put up online, I'm not aware of a way to do that.
Let's see, lots of good questions. Next one, if you're not sure of your AP Calc test score, which math would you recommend signing up for? In other words, is it easier to switch into a higher math or to go down to a lower math if needed?
Yeah, well, you should know your score. You should know your score before you register, and if you've asked the College Board to send your scores to Duke, Duke should know your score as well, and that will be posted. Math is one of the few and maybe the only department where switching can be challenging. So because they get into things so quickly, there are math classes where, even though the drop add period lasts for 2 weeks when the semester begins, there are a number of classes in math where after the first week, even though there's another drop add, they will not let students switch into class just because they're concerned that they have already missed too much. Now, what I will say is that the Saturday before classes begin, so the end of orientation week, the math department hosts a kind of a math placement open house where, and this will be in the schedule that you get from these student programs, the time and the location, where you can go to that, speak with the faculty about your math background, about what class they think would be the most appropriate one for you, to get some firsthand advice about that. You can also, and this is true for any department, you can, during the summer, you can send an email to the Director of Undergraduate Studies for the department. You can find out who the DUS is on the department website. The DUS is essentially the person that runs the major, and you can ask whatever question that you have about placement. The placement guidelines on the math website are really pretty detailed and specific. So if you really look at those carefully, you should be able to figure out what the math department feels is the most appropriate class for you, and you should certainly have your AP score in hand before it's time for you to register.
Great, thank you. We have a question. Are there some classes that are very common for first semester Duke students to take outside of the focus program?
Well, the biggest first year classes, that I'd say pull in the most first year students would be Econ 101, which is 250 to 300 students, many or most of whom are first year. A new wrinkle to Econ 101 this year is it's a mandatory satisfactory, unsatisfactory class, which means nobody is allowed to take it for a grade. Everybody takes it on an SU basis. This is a change that the department made to try to, I think, reduce some of the stress that students may have experienced in that class. So that's a big one. Psych 101, big class, very popular with first-year students, a terrific class. The largest number of first-year students are going to be in one variant of math or another, 105, 111, 122. Math has probably the most seats collectively across it of any class for first-year students. There are lots of students who come in who are pre-health, so there's a lot of first-year students in Chem 101, Chem 110. Those would probably be the largest absorbers of first-year students.
Great. There's a question about advising. Is there anything I should do before I have an over-the-phone advising session?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that question. So, we will be assigning each of you a college advisor later this summer. It's after you register. We'll send out an email when the assignments have been made. It'll be sometime in early August. So nobody will be speaking with their assigned advisor prior to registration. Our office, you can get in touch with us in one of 4 different ways. We try to make it as easy as we can. You can email any questions you have to advising@duke.edu. We have experienced advisors who are manning the phones every day between 8:30 and 5, so you can call whenever you want, and we'll put you through to someone during busy times. Our staff assistant may need to take your name and number, and you'll be called back. You can schedule your own 30-minute appointment online. You've already gotten emails from me with a link to the page where you can go schedule. And we also have a terrific group of peer advisors. There's a peer advising Facebook page where you can post your questions, and you'll hear back within an hour from at least one or more peer advisors giving you a student perspective on your question. But no, there's nothing that you need to do to prepare. I mean, I spoke with probably 8 or 9 students this morning. Some had just a detailed list of questions that they had thought a lot about and wanted to ask. Others just wanted to call and chat about general questions about how to think about choosing courses and things like that. So obviously, we want to make sure that we do the best we can to answer whatever questions you have, but don't feel like you have to have a well-articulated, well-thought-out, well-researched question before you can call us. You can just call and introduce yourself, and we're happy to talk about whatever is on your mind in relation to starting at Duke.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple questions in the thread that are pretty specific to individual cases, and so I would definitely encourage you. We might not have time for them in this space, but I would definitely encourage you to reach out using the different ways that David just explained.
Just to give you an idea, so already this summer, right, and we're still 3-4 weeks, 3 weeks away from 3-4 weeks away from registration. We've either spoken to or emailed well over 250 members of your class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you have questions about specific interests or classes or what that might look like, I would definitely recommend reaching out. We do have a couple of questions that came up about languages. And so I guess first off, I just lost it. Where did it go?
When should you start the farm river requirement?
When should you start? So that will vary from student to student. So there is, like most things, there is no right or wrong answer, or no answer, no one size fits all. I would say this about the language requirement, and I hate to use that word, and really encourage you to think about it not as a requirement so much, although it is, but you can come to Duke and start a new language and graduate speaking that language fluently. And to think about, what an incredible both accomplishment and really skill that would be to develop. One of my advisees, who's just a wonderful young woman, she's going to get out of Duke 2 years from now being pretty close to fluent in both Chinese and Arabic, right? And she didn't speak a word of either of them before she started. That's pretty unusual. It's hard to do, but she's somebody who wants to go into international relations as a career, and if that's what you're pointing towards, what could be more helpful than that? So first thing I'd say is think about the opportunity to develop a real skill in a language, and if that's a goal of yours, and I'm not saying it has to be, but it is certainly a worthwhile goal to think about for yourself, then the earlier you start, the better. As far as what the requirement itself consists of, it's a minimum of 1 class, a maximum of 3 classes. It depends on what level you begin with. So students who come in and have a background that allows them to begin at an advanced level in a language, which is any course numbered 300 or above, you take that 1 course, and if you want to be done, you're done. If you have the background to start at kind of an advanced intermediate level, you would take that class and then an advanced class, and you're done after 2. If you start anywhere else, you're going to be taking 3 classes, and the only difference will be at what level you wind up. I'll say this, that there are only 3 or 4 languages where every level is taught every semester. So Spanish, every level of Spanish is taught each semester. French, every level each semester. Italian, same thing, and German, same thing. Other than that, 101, which is beginning, is only offered in the fall. So let's say you came in and you say, I want to graduate knowing how to speak Chinese. You either start Chinese 101 this fall, or you're going to have to wait until the following fall to begin your study of Chinese, because they don't offer the entry-level course in the spring. That's true for every language other than those 4 most commonly taught languages that I mentioned. If developing fluency is important to you, again, then the earlier you start, the better. The more you can take before you then go have an immersive language experience with the study abroad experience, the further along you'll be before you are immersed in the language, and the more likely you are to come back from that experience, speaking the language fluently or pretty close to it. In recent years, it's been about a third, roughly, of the class that takes a language in their first semester, so the majority do not. Obviously, if you're going to continue with the study of a language that you've done in high school, then in many ways it makes sense to take that in the fall, so there's not too long a gap in when you're using the language. The longer the gap, of course, you're going to get rusty. Unfortunately, in particular for Spanish, like already those people who are looking forward to starting Spanish from the beginning in the fall, there's not a single seat right now available in any of the Spanish 101 classes. It's possible that will change, but I wouldn't put my hopes in it. So you'd have to, for example, wait until the spring to start that, but that is one of the ones where every level is offered every semester. I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I would really, and this will be actually, you'll be getting an email from our office tonight that talks about languages specifically. And again, I would really encourage you to think about how wonderful it would be to learn a new language while you're here and to really develop real proficiency in that.
I think we had maybe 5 questions on language, and I think you answered every single one of them just now. We had one about starting at the 101 level. We have one about Spanish having a wait list right now.
Yeah. Let me just
Okay.
say what we're saying about language is there are no placement exams at Duke for languages. Every language program will have pretty detailed placement guidelines on their site, depending on the number of years you've taken it in high school, if you took the SAT, what your score was, blah, blah, blah. And look at those carefully. You do want to place yourself at the right level. You will get kicked out of a class if you place yourself inappropriately. So there are students who say, well, I've had 4 years of Spanish, but it would be nice to start again at the beginning, at 101, and really get a good foundation, and it'll be an easy course for me. They will kick you out of there. They will not let you stay in a class that's either too far below your level, or certainly if it's too far above your level. In the first week, the instructors really try to assess the level that students are at, and they will say, hey, this is not for you. Thank you. See you later. If you have questions about the appropriate placement after reviewing the placement guidelines, get in touch with our office, and we can put you in touch with somebody in the department who can help you out.
Great. Last lingering question about language is, do language classes for study abroad programs need to be taken on a grading basis, or can you satisfy the requirements with a satisfactory, unsatisfactory?
Yeah, so if you're taking, if you're in a Duke In, what we call Duke In, so it's a study abroad program sponsored by Duke, the courses that you take are just like Duke courses. They're graded courses. They'll show up on your transcript with whatever grades you get. If you take any class that you take in a study abroad program, that's not a Duke In program. It's one that Duke approves, but Duke doesn't run and administer. All those classes, when they transfer back to Duke, they will show up on your transcript just as a credit, but there won't be a grade associated with it. It's not automatic, but essentially automatic. You have to submit a request to the quote courses committee. Let's say you go to NYU in Madrid and you take a language course there. You would have to submit a request to the courses committee to have that foreign language course that you took in Madrid count towards the language requirement. As long as you've taken the language in an immersive environment, which is defined as you're taking it in a country where they speak that language, if you do the paperwork that's required, I've never heard of it not being approved.
Great. We have a question about seminar type classes. If you can kind of just talk through as much as you're able to, like, the degree of, it asks if they're challenging or more demanding because of the small size.
Yeah. They're not necessarily, they're more challenging and demanding in different ways. So I'll speak very candidly here. If you're like Econ 101 with one of 250 students, you can show up, you can not show up, nobody knows. It's not that nobody cares, the faculty want you there, but nobody's taking attendance. It's up to you to keep up with the work. If you want to let the class slide for 3 weeks and think you can be a hero and cram, 2 days before the exam and you pull it off, good for you. Not the best approach in some ways, but nobody's watching it. But there are plenty of big classes that are incredibly demanding just because the work is so challenging. In a seminar, what's different about it and what can make it in some ways more demanding is you got to show up. If you're not there in a 12, 15-person class, your instructor knows. Most seminars will have attendance policies where if you miss more than a certain number of classes, and for an unexcused reason, it can start to whittle away at your grade. You know, in a big lecture class, if I'm not keeping up with the reading, I can sit there like a bump on a log. Who cares? In a seminar, you're expected to show up, having done the reading, having thought about the reading, being prepared to participate. For some students, that's a challenge. They're not, they're not managing their time in a way that allows them to do that consistently, and that will not be well received by your professor. They want students to show up interested, engaged, ready to ask questions, ready to contribute to class discussion. So that's the part of it that can be more demanding. And then, honestly, for some students, having a talk in class is not easy. I've known students who have bent over backwards trying to avoid any class that requires any kind of participation because they just get anxious about that. That's something that's true for you. That's really an important thing to try to work on and address and kind of get over that hump. In terms of whether they're intellectually more demanding, on average, the answer is no. All classes always are demanding, but they do put demands on students in terms of attendance, participation, keeping up with the work that other larger classes don't.
Can I take classes ending in F or SS in addition to a seminar, or are those only to satisfy the seminar requirement?
So FS classes are focus classes. The F stands for focus, and you're not allowed to enroll in a focus class unless you're in that focus cluster. So only students who've applied to and been admitted to a particular focus cluster are able to take the classes in that cluster. So if you're not a focus student, any class with an FS after it is off limits. In terms of the other seminars, in a seminar is any class that has an S after the number. You can take as many as you want. Everybody needs to take at least one seminar in the first year to satisfy the first year seminar requirement, but you're not restricted to only a single seminar. Sometimes what can be confusing is, there's a first year seminar requirement, and then there's this whole series of first year seminars, which are these 89S series of seminars that are exclusively for first year students. Sometimes students think they have to take one of those in order to satisfy the first year seminar requirement. That's not true. You can take any seminar that you're interested in and have the background for will satisfy the first year seminar requirement. And while I said you can take as many as you want, I'll just, the caveat I will give is that I have seen students who sign up for 2 or 3 seminars in their first semester, and it turns out, they are not ready to show up to class consistently, to keep up with the work, to be ready to participate, and so that turned out not to be a good idea for them. There are, again, much greater expectations for your active involvement and engagement in a small class than in a large lecture, and that's something to give some thought to.
Great. So we have a student that asked, I completed my first year questions, but my checklist still has a red flag beside first year questions. Will this cause any problem when I'm trying to register?
So what I ask you to do is send an email to me. My email address is D as in David Rabiner, R-A-B as in Bob, I-N-E-R, @duke.edu. And yeah, let me know who you are, and I'll go and take a look on Duke Hub and see what may be going on.
Awesome. And for that student, I just sent you a private message with that email address.
I think that's about the first year questions. You don't need to complete the first year questions before you start book bagging, but you want to make sure you've completed them before your registration window, because if you don't, you will not be able to complete the enrollment process, and you will not be able to enroll in any classes until you have completed those first-year questions. And I would really encourage you to do those in a thoughtful way. Yeah, you don't have to worry about writing beautiful, polished prose. Nobody cares about that. But your advisor really will care that you made a sincere effort to talk about what you're interested in, what your goals are, what you hope to get out of your time at Duke, any kind of worries or concerns you may have starting out, so that they can know what's important to you, and that can allow them to support you better and to assist you better.
Yeah. On the topic of book bagging, there was a question asking if there was anyone who would be able to walk through the book bagging process one-on-one. I would encourage you, if you haven't already, there is a section in the Blue Book dedicated to registration with screenshots from the website. It walks you through it. And there is a section specifically for book bagging in your Blue Book, so I would definitely check that out. And then a couple weeks ago, we had a peer connection webinar, and we had students from peer, we had peer advisors, we had E-team for prep, we had an RA, and they also talked about book bagging. So if you want to get if you want to review the recording from that too, they talk about it a lot. But if you want anyone one-on-one, you still have questions lingering, I would definitely recommend the different channels that David talked through earlier, whether that be,
So, in terms of specific technical details of registration, just one thing to point out is that the interface the Duke Hub interface that we have as advisors, as deans, whatever, is not the same as yours. So we do not see what you see. I do not have access to the book bagging process. I've never book bagged. And so with technical questions, if you call it a technical book bagging question, what I'm going to do is just what Casey suggested. I'm going to open up the Blue Book and find the screenshots about the book bagging process and try to talk it through with you. If you're still stuck and you need somebody to walk you through that one-on-one, the thing to do is to call the registrar's office. Their number is 919-684-2813. And somebody there who has access to the student view can walk you through anything related to book bagging or enrolling that's kind of a technical issue. Our office can help you think specifically about course selection, make sure you understand requirements, talk with you about big picture stuff. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of how do I actually validate my schedule or enroll, we're not going to be any more helpful to you than the Blue Book.
Really got everything. Let's see, going through. Answered that one. Is it possible for a focus class to fulfill a major requirement?
Sometimes. It depends on the department. Some departments will allow focus classes to count towards the major. Others will not. So it's impossible to give a hard and fast answer to that. What you'd have to do is to look specifically on the department website that you're thinking about as a possible major, and see if there's specific information about whether a focus class that they offer through their department will count. If it's not evident on the website, then that would be a question that you would have to ask of the Director of Undergraduate Studies for that major. If you go to duke.edu and type in Directors of Undergraduate Study, you'll get to a page that will show you for every single department who the DUS is, along with their contact info. And so they would be the source for that if the website doesn't make it clear.
Great. We have a question about the enrollment window. Is the enrollment window time based off of Eastern time?
That's Duke time, correct. So 12 p.m. on the 9th or 12 p.m. on the 11th. And yeah, I would really encourage you to be all set and ready to go so you can just hit your complete enrollment button at noon. It really can make a difference in sometimes, well, on many occasions, whether you get into a particular course or not. It works on milliseconds. So if there are 10 seats left in a class and there are 20 students on the 9th who want to have that class in their book bag that they've selected, and they all hit the complete my enrollment button at what appears to be the same time, I mean, those requests will arrive at the server separated in cases by millionths of a second, and whoever gets there first gets the seat. So you want to be ready to go at noon. I know those of you in the second window are disappointed, and I don't want to lie. There'll be classes that students in the first window get that you will get shut out of. That's just the way it is. But who has first and second window? It alternates so that if you're in second window for this fall registration, when it comes time to spring, you'll be in the first window, and it goes back and forth like that until senior year when all the seniors register on the same day. And I will say that as disappointing as we know it is to be shut out of a class we're really excited to take, there are thousands of classes that you can choose from. And so, if you spend some time going through the catalog, you're going to find presumably far more courses that you would love to take than just the 4 you're allowed to take.
Great. Let's see. It says on Duke Hub that I need to register for 4.5 classes each semester. Is it the same if I do 4 one semester and 5 the next semester?
So you don't have to register for 4.5. A full course load at Duke is defined as 4 credits. That's a full course load. Anything less than 4 credits is an underload. You cannot be in an underload unless you have permission of your dean, and your dean will not give you permission to be in an underload in the first semester, period. You can only, when you enroll at your window, you can only enroll in up to 4.5 credits. That's the max that anybody can enroll in. Once you get here, if you want to go increase to 5 credits, what you'll have to do is you'll have to contact your dean, say, hey, I'm in 4.5 credits now because I'm in focus and I want to take a PE class, which is the half-credit class, or I want to take orchestra or music lessons, which is a half-credit class. And your dean will, in all likelihood, increase your credit limit to 5 so that you can be in 5 credits. But what I emphasize is first-year students have to be in 4 1.0 for full credit classes, and if you cannot be in 5 full credit classes. So for students who are in 5, that last credit is going to be comprised of 2 half-credit classes. Most commonly, the half-credit focus course for students who are in focus, and then something like a PE class or orchestra or something like that. After your first semester, so when it comes time for the spring, you can be enrolled in as many as 5.5 credits without getting any kind of permission from your dean. But in this first semester, we limit you to 4 full credit classes.
Great. We have kind of a 2-part question, and we touched on it slightly earlier. It was one of the first questions asked. So the first part is, what's the difference between the major's pre/co-requisite and major requirements? And then the second question is, should I pick courses mainly based on my intended major's pre/co-requisite and required classes?
Prerequisites, co-requisites for majors. There are a number of majors, typically in the natural or quantitative sciences, where in addition to say, let's just say for biology, in addition to say the 10 or 11 courses within biology that are required, they have a number of co-requisites. And that would be things like, to be a biomajor, you have to have a semester of calculus, you need to have a semester or two of chemistry, you need to have a semester of physics. Those co-requisites are courses that you must take in order to complete the major that are not necessarily in the department itself. Classes typically in the social sciences and humanities are much less likely to have any co-requisites. Another example is, say, computer science. To be a computer science major, you have to have a certain amount of math. So math would be a co-requisite for the comp sci major. In terms of whether you should be picking classes based on what you expect your major is likely to be, I'll say a couple of things about that. One is it makes great sense to begin to explore departments that you feel like you have a strong enough interest in that it may turn out to be something that you choose to major in. So if you know, hey, I think I love comp sci and that's something I could really envision myself doing, then yes, it makes great sense to take a comp sci class and see what you think based on that experience here at Duke. If I know I love psychology, I can really see myself majoring in that, well, it makes great sense to take a psych class and see what you think. That being said, you don't have to worry about starting on your major right away. I mean, this is a true statement. There's not a single major in Trinity College that you have to begin in your first semester in order to complete it within 4 years. So if you're somebody who has not sure what they want to major in, which is true for the majority of your class, does not know at this point what they want to major in, which is a good thing from the perspective of many faculty, then yeah, you should begin to explore courses and departments that you know you have a strong interest in. I would also, of course, note that there are many departments and disciplines here at Duke that you've never had a chance to take anything in because they're just not available in your high school. And so to think about, well, I know I'm pretty sure I'm interested in, say, psych and econ, so I'm going to begin to explore those departments. But wow, I've never had a chance to take a religion course, and that sounds like really interesting. Or a documentary studies class, that sounds really interesting. So maybe think about at least one of your courses as an opportunity to explore a new discipline, something that would really be kind of brand spanking new for you. And you'd be surprised how often students who do that discover an interest that they never had and wind up.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? My computer was not cooperating with me for a second, but we're back. We have just a few more minutes, and I know there are a lot of questions on here, so I'm trying to get to those. We had a couple of questions about, oh, I lost my screen, where did it go? We had a couple of questions about how do you tell whether or not you register for a writing class, either your fall or your semester, and we've answered a couple of them privately, but it keeps popping up, so I figure we should address it.
Yeah, so look in your blue book, it will specify where you see it, but it'll be on your registration page on Duke Hub. If you were selected to take Writing 101 in the fall, there'll be a message to that effect that basically says you are supposed to take Writing 101 in the fall.
Yes.
And I just want to emphasize that if you see that, you have to do it. It doesn't matter if the class that you wanted to take filled up. Doesn't matter if the only thing left is at 8:30 in the morning and you don't want to get up that early. You just have to do it.
And if you don't see that, you would take a seminar.
If you don't see that, we'd encourage you to take a seminar. And let me just say one more thing, is that on the 9th and the 11th, the only students who are allowed to enroll in Writing 101 are those who were selected to take it in the fall. Mm-hmm. But then once essentially the drop ad begins on the 12th, then you'll have another week when you can make changes, adjustments to your schedule. At that point, writing 101 is open to everyone. So even if you weren't selected to take it in the fall, if you see, there will still be some sections that have open seats. If you see one that you'd like to take, grab it. You're allowed to enroll at that point.
Great. And I think we have time for one last question. There were a few, I know we've talked about AP credits a little bit before, as far as they will be in time for registration, and to be sure to send them in to the Duke registrar if you haven't already. There was a question about if, I guess, how do AP credits work towards graduation requirements? And if you have AP credits and you're going to choose not to use them to place out of the class, can you still get credit for having taken that course?
So the way AP credits work is at Duke you need 34 credits to graduate. For the most part, one course equals 1 credit. There are half credit courses, etc. But I figure 34 credits is 34 courses. If you have AP credits, whether you have 2 or 22, 2 of your 34 credits can be satisfied by AP. So that means rather than needing to earn 34 credits after you enroll at Duke, you just need 32. And again, whether you have only 2 APs or whether you have 42 APs, you just get 2, period. You don't have to tell Duke count these 2. It's just 2 credits. You don't have to do anything. All of your AP classes can be used for placement purposes, to place you into a higher level class. In terms of whether if you place into a higher level class because of your AP score, do you have to? It depends on the department. So there are some departments where if you have an AP score that places you out of, say, their intro course, they won't let you in their intro course. So chemistry, for example, there are students who have 5 on AP Chem. The Chem department would say, if you have a 5 on AP Chem, you should go right into organic chemistry, Chem 201. You should not be in Chem 101. There will be students who still sign up for Chem 101 with a 5 on the AP because they want to get a stronger foundation or they think it'll be an easy class for them. The Chem department will kick you out. They will not let you stay in there. Other departments don't operate that way. So that's a department by department thing. AP credits in Trinity do not fulfill any of the curriculum codes. So you cannot fulfill any area of knowledge code or any mode of inquiry code based on an AP. It can only count for credit. I said that you get 2, whether you have 2 APs or 32 APs. There are some important exceptions to that. So if you want to graduate after 7 semesters, as some students do, then rather than having 2 APs count towards your 34 credit total, Duke will let you count up to 4, which means that you just need to earn 30 credits in 7 semesters to graduate. A small number of students each year choose to graduate after only 6 semesters. In that case, Duke will let you use up to 8 AP credits towards the 34. So you will need to earn only 26 credits in your 6 semesters. But none of the APs will count towards any of the Trinity curriculum requirements. They simply count as credits towards graduation.
Great, thank you. I know that there are some questions that we were unfortunately unable to get to, but we are at time. So if you have any lingering questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. There are plenty of people here who want to see you succeed and do well. So
let me just say,
yeah.
you can email your question right now to advising@duke.edu, and you will get an answer to that question from one of our experienced advisors by the end of the day tomorrow, or else give us a call tomorrow. We start taking phone calls at 8:30 in the morning Eastern time. 919-684-6217, or go online and schedule an appointment with one of us, and we will look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, but definitely get your questions answered. Hopefully this has been helpful. Thank you, David, for joining us. We have 3 more webinars left. We have one for craft tomorrow. On Thursday, we have one for pre-health advising, and then in a few weeks, we have one actually with us, with new student programs, and also International House, and we'll be answering questions on orientation week, move-in day, pre-orientation programs, international orientation, all that good stuff. So be sure to tune in. If you came in late or missed or want to hear information that was shared earlier, this was being recorded, and so we'll be posting this to the New Student Programs YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for that. We'll post it on the Facebook page. But thank you for joining us, and have a good rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.